Hey, Nour, how you doing?
Good to see you, Randy.
Excellent. Good to be seen. Awesome to have you on here. Well, everybody that's watching, welcome. I'm delighted to introduce you all to David Nour. Many of you probably know him. This is episode number 191 of Tech Sales Insights. Nour is the founder and CEO of Avnir and 22-year founding partner of the Nour Group. We have a great title topic today, which is 5 tips for your continued growth as a leader in the new year. So for those that are leaders or aspiring to be leaders, some fantastic nuggets here. You miss the Nourism and you certainly miss a lot. So you don't want to miss what promises to be more than just 5 great tips here in the next 30-ish minutes or so. So anything with Nour is for sure always content packed. And I'm sporting the swag here, Avnir Relationship Bank, and you got a nice jacket there, and I think you're offering up some swag for best questions and things like that.
Absolutely. So we want to make this interactive. So great questions are going to get a t-shirt like Randy's wearing. These are coveted. If you put them on eBay,
Sure.
you'll get at least $3 for them. So no, I'm kidding. So yeah, jump in with great questions and we'll make sure we send you a small token of our appreciation.
Yep, and maybe a nice goodie box as well there. And
Right.
we didn't talk about that before. Anyway, so we are sponsored by Avnir, who's the relationship excellence sponsor of Sales Community. For those that are members of Sales Community, thank you. Nour and several others are on our advisory board. So Nour, thank you for that. Tucker can put up a free link. So for those that want to join, feel free, salescommunity.com/free. And we have Tucker behind the scenes as always helping us. So thank you for that, Tucker. We met probably 15 years ago or so. I was at Sun. I was probably one to admittedly sit in the back of most meetings. And your title was around relationship economics, which was one of your great books that you did. You can see in the background, happen to have curb benders here. My relationship economics, I think, is up in Boston, but I just took away, as good as I was, or at the time, I think around kind of relationships and networking, I just took away so many great nuggets, and we built a great friendship, and have learned so much from you over the years. So thank you for that. Certainly have learned amazing things, and you've helped me and so many other friends with sales kickoffs, and now you're taking it to the next level with Avnir. For those that don't know, Nour has actually done 12 books translated into 8 languages, so pale in comparison with only my one in English, on business relationships, real innovation, and lasting change, including the 2 bestsellers that are in the background there that I mentioned, Relationship Economics, Curb Benders, and Co-Create. He's been 20 plus years as an executive coach and developer of exceptional leaders. I don't know if present company is excluded or included in that. And hiring you several times when I was at Sun and HP to speak, coach, train, not only me, but my leadership team and others was just fantastic. The ripple effect of having you help numerous Sales Community Advisory Board members and friends, some that people know, Casey Choi, Bill Hogan, Terry Richardson, Michael Norton, and lots of others. Avnir, something I'm really excited about. It's a really cool AI platform that activates hidden relationship value. You've done that just this past year, currently in alpha. I and several others are advisors, but really just trying to take what I would say kind of the old school kind of spreadsheet. We'd say, okay, how long ago did you have the touch point? Do you know their wives' names and kids' names and schools and all that stuff? Just kind of really automating all that and really taking it to the next level is just fantastic. I totally vouch that your best sales call ever was with your lovely wife, Wendy. 29 years married, great, and love your kids, Grayson and Justice. Grayson graduated from Georgia Tech, interviewing for medical schools in pursuit of becoming an orthopedic surgeon. Amazing there. And Justice, 3rd year at University of Georgia, not quite Alabama, but Georgia's having a great year. MIS major, going abroad to Barcelona, just accepted a ISR internship for next summer with PTC up in Boston. So definitely we'll look forward to seeing a lot of you all. And to keep going here, Bill Walsh, have some nice comments here. David is a thought leader in understanding the value in relationships, which has been and always will be critically important for outcome bestsellers. He was a longtime RevOps leader at EMC then Dell. Cheryl Cook, a longtime channel chief at Dell. Nour is very experienced and a savvy executive who's passionate and truly focused on the strategic importance and critical value of relationships to foster growth and business value. Bill Hogan, longtime CRO at, I'll say, mid-sized security companies. Atlanta's favorite son, tremendous family man, renowned author, coach, mentor, public speaker, and a master of the art of science of relationships. That really says it well. Master of the art of the science of relationships. When not molding minds, he loves riding the motorcycle to the extreme, which is just totally ridiculous. I was just ignoring that, but just insane. Paolo Doble, he's a dynamic and energetic thought leader who has spent years honing his craft as a speaker and advisor. He's now taken all that knowledge and wisdom to create and launch Avnir. He knows and understands intelligent relationship management likely better than anyone you will meet. Totally vouch for that. So before we kind of jump in talking about the 5 tips, Roy Taylor has a great question. What does Avnir do? Thanks,
so,
Roy.
Number one, I'm grateful to you and the kind folks with their comments. So thank you for that. 2, Roy, I've been a student of business relationships for 20 plus years, and I'm mesmerized by how we all believe their importance. I don't think we quite realize their significance. So in all the years in trying to teach leaders, their teams, their organizations, how to be intentional, strategic, and quantifiable about their relationships, the biggest headwind has been, how do we operationalize what you're trying to teach us? How do we incorporate these ideas in a process, in a platform? So the easiest way to think about Avnir is, Randy knows this, I'm a storyteller. And I want to tell you about a story of a chief revenue officer who goes into a QBR and has to tell a leadership team of how they lost a $10 million deal. The CFO looks at the deal and says, we should have never lost this deal. When the CRO says, well, what do you mean? He looks at it and says, that buyer was in my wedding. So in every company, we believe there are all these hidden relationships that we can't possibly think about, we can't possibly know. I have no idea who you went to school with, who you worked with. And this is a perfect use case for composite AI that scans our networks and looks for those connections. So we're big believers of, how do you focus on fewer, but build deeper, more meaningful relationships, and then connect the dots between the relationships you have and the ones you need. So with Avnir, we're leveraging AI agents, a new category we believe is system of agents, to really scan, build a personal vault, and then build a 360-degree view of your relationships and connect you with others that'll be instrumental to your success.
So great. And with your, not put you on the spot, but kind of with your alpha phase here, are you kind of accepting kind of new sign-ons, or are you still kind of keeping that close to the vest?
Yeah, we're pretty close to the vest. It's a really controlled environment because, Randy, as you know, what you're trying to do with alpha is you have a hypothesis. You're trying to prove, are these problems pervasive? Are they urgent? And are people willing to pay for it? And you're trying to really prove the case studies. You're trying to prove the use cases. You're trying to prove, we're not even quite to product market fit. You're trying to figure out problem to solution fit.
Right.
So we've got 10 so far. We're making really good progress with them. We've got some work to do. Obviously, as a founder, you're never quite happy with the product, but we're making great progress. And I'm grateful for friends and advisors like you who are giving us guidance on where we should really double down on what we're building.
Yeah, absolutely. So Roy, great question. Thanks. So for others listening or watching, feel free to ask any questions, make any comments as well, and you'll be in the bin to get some swag. So of the 5 tips, so first one, execs in transition, just because you fit doesn't mean you belong.
Yeah. So I got to tell you, I've been really surprised this past year. Randy, 32 senior executives have announced their retirement. And these aren't 60 and 70-year-olds. These are 50-year-olds that are the Michael Jordan of their company or field or career or industry. And one of them, mid-50s, running a $3 billion company. And he's like, I've had enough. I've just honestly want to spend more time with my family. I'm not ready to retire, but I want to really rethink about what my priorities are, really recalibrate what gives me that contentment and what, refills my cup to want to keep going. So I'm a big believer of, and a lot of executives I've spoken with are in transition. And I want to just highlight a handful of things. Number one, the grass is never greener on the other side. It's greener where it's fed and it's nurtured and it's watered and it's kept up and it's taken care of. So be cautious. There's a direct correlation between your satisfaction with the role and the level of due diligence you do. Everybody's going to put forward their best foot on both sides during the interview process. I've got friends and former clients who 6 months in are asking themselves, what the hell did I get myself into? And it's just a much bigger issue on the other side of accepting that role. So I'm a big believer, just because you fit doesn't mean you belong.
Yep.
And I want to...
Yeah, let me just chime in. That's the grass always greener. So whether you're an individual contributor, SDR, all the way up to CEO, I have every day somebody calls, hey, I'm looking, they currently have a job. I'm like, okay, what's wrong with where you're at? And we'll go through the list. Like, okay, have you really pushed on it? Well, I don't really know. Well, it's like, so you're willing to kind of leave the opportunity as opposed to kind of pushing back in a kind, thoughtful way. Okay, I've got issues around, could be compensation, could be territory, could be goaling, could be hiring, could be, too much non-revenue generating work. It could be too much time with, operations and HR as opposed to selling time, just kind of all that stuff. So hey, work on fixing kind of where you're at now, because you might be able to fix it before you, in fact, want, go ahead and reach out and you think about doing something else, because the grass is not always greener.
You're exactly right. And I talk to a lot of executives about don't look at the culture from a cursory standpoint. Really spend some time understanding. Tell me about this place. How does this place work? How does this place function? What do you value? How often have we seen people ask for A and measure and compensate B? Well, that is a cultural alignment or misalignment with the values of the place and what the leader, you and I both know, really brilliant, CEOs who are going through this merry-go-round of executives because they get, mesmerized by the shiny object that's on their resume, but they don't realize how difficult that CRO or CMO or chief product role is, or they're asking that head of customer success to take on a Herculean role of stop the bleeding, and it's the product. It's not the sales or the marketing arena. So really understanding the culture you're walking into, really understanding, and you and I have both married above our pay grade. It's ridiculous, how well our spouses know us, almost like better than we know ourselves.
Right.
It's ridiculous their, spidey tingle sense of, look, I'm not sure that person is the right fit for how you're wired, or the people that I've met may or may not be, kind of who you thrive around. So I'm a big believer of do as much due diligence if you're an executive in transition on the company as they're doing on you, and make sure you're not running away from something, you're running to something. Look at your past experiences. Mm-hmm. Is this a place where is this an environment where you're going to be at your best? Is this a place where you can thrive? Is this a place where your past experiences, your past relationships are going to bolster your success? If not, think twice, because every one of these jobs, if they're coffee stops or they're missteps, are going to dilute your credibility, dilute your reputation, because if it doesn't work, people are going to ask, what kind of due diligence did you do?
Right.
And how did you make sure that was a good fit for you before you took the leap to go join them?
Yep, totally. And there's also, not only in transition, you also have, especially the CRO role, the board gets upset at the company performance, right? Somehow the, kind of goes right through the CEO shoots the CROs, right? So they're so limited, they're, whatever it is, 12 to 14 months tenure. And that's also then other type of transition going through where you really don't have any control, right? You just get shot.
Particularly CEOs who didn't come up to the ranks through sales, or they're not as familiar with the nuances of that go-to-market strategy and what it really takes. It's really easy to shoot the CRO or shoot the CMO and replace them. Let's get somebody else in. It's the product, or it's the experience, right, or it's not really solving the right kind of problems. And so I would be cautious about that revolving door of executives should be a yellow, if not a red flag. Now, there's always three sides to every story of why it didn't work out, but just really double down on your due diligence. Randy, I still see executives that get mesmerized by titles and comp plans and promises of, grandeur. You come and run it the way you want, and a weekend. No, well, we're not gonna do that. Wait, what happened? So really asking, really diving in again, the culture, the senior leadership team you're going to work with, the executive kind of mandates in that place are going to save you a lot of pain and agony and frustration down the road.
Totally. Last point I'll make on this, and we can move on. We probably do a whole podcast just on this topic. But other thing too is where the direct reports to the CEO, whether it's CRO, CMO, CFO, don't have those touch points to the board, right? So if the CRO has these issues, or they think the grass is greener, right? Do they have the relationships with the board? Typically not. So then the CEO is just putting in a bunch of crap to the board, really not knowing what's going on. A lot of people say, well, the board should reach out to me. I'm like, okay, well, if they're not, it's up to you to build those relationships, just like you're trying to sell to an account, right? You're going to leverage that as much as you can.
Unequivocally, I would be, that's a red flag for me as a C-suite, for you not to have board interactions, right, not to understand what's their mandate, what are the things they care about. Pat Lessinger, right, recently let go from Intel because the board lost their patience with the runway, right? So what is that board mandate? What are they looking for? What do they care most about? Yeah. And if you're blind to that, you're taking a big gamble on. You could get in there and do a great job, and the rug's going to get pulled out from under you for no fault of your own. So really doing a due diligence on, and I think Scott Jones is jumping in. Yeah, if you don't do your due diligence on the culture, if you don't build relationships up, down, and across before you take that role, you got more risk than you realize.
Absolutely. And we have from, by the way, Pat, great leader, great person. He's probably he'll respond to notes from me even today faster than I'll get it from some sales reps at companies that I'm helping. You can't make it up. Just great DNA. Yeah. But anyway, Scott Jones had said truth, absolutely. And then from Rick Diana says, thanks for inviting David Nour to your Tech Sales Insights show. I'm honored to be an alpha participant and the Avnir Relationship Bank platform. So Rick Diana, thanks for the shout out.
Rick's a great guy. Great to have you, Rick.
So second one is, amid the corporate hunger games, be the statesman.
Yeah, I'm working with a couple of executives who, when I say corporate hunger games, there's obviously constant jockeying for resources, power, influence, access to the CEO, the board, the investors, right? Well, whatever the case may be. And there seems to be this constant jockeying. You and I have seen, a CMO who's got a $10 million budget and a CRO that can't, get the head count to hire more reps in the field, right? This constant jockeying for, like I said, power and influence. And I've always believed the statesman really sets, or stateswoman sets him or herself apart by really thinking we and not me. And Randy, I see this all the time when you go in a company and you hear us and them, or those guys, or it's that group, that's the challenge. And versus, and I've got to give a shout out to, Bill Hogan is the consummate, that executive. And, he's been really successful as a sales rep and a sales manager and a sales leader. And his evolution from that kind of deep knowledge of the sales arena to now, how do I become a president? How do I become a COO? How do I become a CEO one day? And you and I have several friends in that category. That evolution is very much, how do I now become more intentional in my responses to challenging situations? How do I become more inclusive of the leadership team's efforts to make a difference? How do I become more discerning in what information I share, what information isn't relevant? I love the expression the other day, if I adamantly disagree, does something need to be said by, does something need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? And will it be kind and productive? If not, the good Lord gave all of us discretion. It's amazing how few people actually use it. So that discernment is the classic case of, am I being the statesman or stateswoman in this scenario? And really taking that high road, really trying to raise the bar in how we show up as a leadership team.
Yeah, I mean, think about authenticity that you're touching on there. We had 2 nights ago at my house here, Aaron Ain, who was a longtime CEO of Kronos UKG, and so many great words of wisdom. We have a great Naples group called Pioneers and Legends, which is kind of just an executive networking group per se. But he said, "Hey, I'm never going to lie to anybody. If I get asked questions in town hall or anything else, I'll either answer it and say, here's the answer. I'll say, I don't know, or say, I know, but for different reasons, I can't share with you." So he said, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to mislead, but that's just such a great natural way to be authentic. And then people kind of respect that perspective a lot.
And I want the audience to really kind of take almost like a checklist for themselves. Like, am I just talking about the tactical things I need to do? Or am I articulating a vision about where we need to go? Am I diplomatic in my communication? I may not agree, but let's talk through it. Let me better understand how, where you're coming from. What do you need? Am I clear and concise in my communication? Am I strategic in my thinking? Am I empathetic towards kind of, again, what others need? Randy, I think if nothing else, the pandemic drove into all of us, we better build our adaptability and our resilience. We better figure out how to more effectively use influence, a lot of times without authority. You don't work for me. So how do I influence you to really come along this journey with me? I have a note in front of me from Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg that says, fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. That's the consummate statesman or stateswoman. That's the person that a lot of people want to work for. And that's really hard for some of the alpha, predominantly male, salespeople that you and I know, because they've been successful through brute force. And what I'm advocating here is really that finesse. What I'm advocating is, a friend says, age is a terrible price to pay for wisdom. The wisdom that comes with maturity, with professional maturity, shows in how we show up and how we really engage others.
Yeah, totally. Now you touch on the I and we a lot. I do my weekly, I might be old school, but post, and Tucker might be able to chime in with the exact percentages, but the kind of question was something to the effect, how often do your senior leaders say I instead of we? And the percentage was just embarrassing, right? I mean, I'm going to say 20, 30 years ago, it would be, 90% would say, oh yeah, the leaders say we. Now I think it was something, 50-50 or even worse than that. I mean, just these little subtle things, just in terms of kind of really how you think and how you act and how you treat your team.
And all of that contributes, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, to your leadership brand. And you and I meet a lot of leaders that talk about that servant leadership. It's not what you say, it's how you show up, and how you show up consistently in particularly difficult, particularly challenging situations that people are going to remember. And they're going to tag you as Seidl is the consummate kind of that servant leader versus Nour, what a jerk. Like, I don't want to work, for or with that guy, as an example.
Yeah. And that helps hire and recruit A players, right? So you're not going to get you'll end up with mediocrity if you're the kind of ladder that you're talking about there. So your number three is you can't get to the promised land with mediocre talent. Double down on MEI, merit, excellence, and intelligence.
I got to tell you, and this isn't. It's really important for me to highlight. This isn't an against DEI. I deeply believe in diversity of thought, diversity of perspective, bringing the less represented groups up along on that journey, and let's make sure we are representative of the customers and the markets we want to work with. But I got to tell you, I was and I'll share this link. The CEO of Scale.com wrote a blog post this past June. The guy's name is Alexander Wang. And he talked a lot about MEI. And he said, listen, at Scale, we've got to hire based on merit. We got to hire people who are very good at what they do. We've got to constantly drive this notion of excellence in everything we do. And by the way, we need intelligent people. We're trying to solve some really complex problems. And MEI took off in a big way in that it really said, and again, I'll share the link with Tucker, and he can share it with the group. But he talked a lot about that's how we build a great company. That's how we'll build one that will last. That's how we'll build one that's competitive. That's how we'll build one that really sets us apart from everybody else. And I see and I meet leaders who have, God bless them, these incredibly aspirational goals, right? Whether it's, and I've seen revenue growth, right? We want the hockey stick, or we want to launch the second and third product, or we want to go into a new market. And they've got these Grand Canyon size aspirations. And you realize that they themselves are not scalable. None of us are. So then you start to ask, tell me about your bench. Tell me who you're surrounded by. Tell me who you're supported by. And I can't take credit for this. One of my executive clients and friends brought this up. If you're hiring projects and not peers, you're constantly going to be babysitting. Their biggest reason most executives cannot let go and go on vacation, like you and I've seen it. The executive who's on their laptop on the side of the pool, and the kids in the pool are asking, daddy, 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 come play with me. They can't let go because they've hired a bunch of projects.
Or forget about peers, better than. I mean, the best thing is hire people better than you.
That's exactly right. And I love, I'm a huge, but again, I love signs. I've got another sign in front of me, the old Steve Jobs quote of, it is literally stupid to hire really smart people and then tell them what to do. You hire smart people so they'll tell you what to do. So mediocre talent that is coasting, talent that is collecting a paycheck, talent that is clocking in and clocking out, and that's all they care about. They're never going to get you to where you're trying to get to. They're never going to get you to that promised land. They're never going to get you to those aspirations. And this is too good of a market. I don't care about the data. This is too good of a market to settle for mediocre people.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have 10 passionate customers, 10 customers that complain and want our product to get better, 10 customers that demonstrate a vested interest in you. I'd rather have 10 people on the team that are driven, they get the mission, they'll do whatever it takes within legal and ethical boundaries, than 100 people who could care less. And I'm telling you, I'm envious. I don't know if you've seen this at Costco lately or not, but you go to Costco and you see their name badges and it says like team member since 2003.
Right.
And I'm thinking, what is Costco doing? It can't just be a paycheck. What are they doing to not just attract, but retain great talent for such a tenure? I don't know if you've been to Buc-ee's or not. Buc-ee's, it's like they've completely innovated one of the most boring businesses ever, which is roadside convenience stores. And yet on the gas station at Buc-ee's, it's got the jobs. They're paying the local Buc-ee's manager like $250K for a store manager. And you go in there and you see people who are committed. You see people that want to be there. You see people that want to contribute. So my point is, if we prioritize merit, excellence, and intelligence, could we really attract not just mediocre talent, but exceptional talent? Could we not attract people who want to be there, believe in you, believe in the mission, believe in what you're trying to do, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get there?
Yeah.
That pride is what I miss greatly from when you and I were selling, from when you and I learned how to do this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times too, companies don't have the, if I overly simplify it, kind of, I'll just say the specs. So example, Octus IQ is a great client, has several projects, but including like a Dell. So they're figuring out, okay, the profile and criteria has changed. So let's figure out, what are the A players of the future? What's that profile and criteria per job? So make sure that they're hiring and recruiting to that. And then of the existing team that you have now, okay, how do you make sure you can evaluate and coach and develop, not just say, okay, we're going to fire somebody, we're going to kind of develop and help you improve. And if we're either going to move you up or move you out. So that way, then you know what that workforce of the future looks like. But too many times customers don't even know kind of what is it, their companies don't know kind of what is that A player profile that I'm going to be hiring for and interviewing for. So if it gets messed up in the beginning, it's just going to be a train wreck later on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Years ago, we used a methodology called top grading. A guy named Brad Smart wrote a book by that title. And for the first time, not only it defined what an A player looks like, but how they behave and what they expect from you as a company. And so I'm a huge top grading fan, number one. Number two, you and I've had this conversation. I'm a big believer of force rank your team. Who would you fight like hell to keep? Who needs development, as you said, either move them up, develop them up, or move them out. And then at the bottom is who would you be okay with if they left? And if you do that, now you know where, again, I'm fighting like hell to continue to grow and keep and really let the top, group just thrive. The middle, I've got to develop. It's the onus is on me to develop, to coach, to mentor, to raise the bar on their understanding and their contribution. And Randy, I still go into companies and I see really good people in completely wrong jobs. Really good people, good hearts, heart of service. They want to be there. They're in the wrong job. And I've got, you met James Milet from Schneider Electric at our summit. The guy's got a ridiculous knack for identifying the ingredients that are going to create a great leader in that role. And if they're in the wrong role, he'll champion them, he'll sponsor them in getting in the right role. And I'll always rather deal with the devil I know versus devil I don't know. I want to take the people that are in the organization and level them up, push them to become the better version, if not the best version of themselves, versus, hey, pull the plug on that person and let's go find somebody else. Now, you and I have also talked about if the willingness is there, I can certainly raise the ability. If the willingness is not there, neither me, you, or anybody else is going to be able to make a difference. So look for that fire within. I've always believed lighting a fire under somebody doesn't last. It's how do I light a fire within them to want a better role, to want a better opportunity, to want a bigger impact in how they show up every day.
Absolutely. And I could talk all day about the people management and 9box and everything else. So Tucker, if you want to I'll do a shameless plug here for my book, Your Go-To Sales Advisor, but there's a lot of practical tools in there that I've used over the years that can help you. All right, let's get on to number 4, zero-base everything.
Yeah, I heard this from Eric McCarthy, longtime friend, board member, advisor. Most people are familiar with zero-based accounting, where if we had $1 million budget last year, we'll just add traditional budgeting here. We'll just add 20% and spend $1.2 million. And it's like, no. Let's go back and recalibrate. Let's go back and rejustify. And zero-basing everything is all about revisiting. It's about decision making. It's about problem solving. It's about revisiting your assumptions. Randy, we make a lot of assumptions when we invest. Whether it's the talent, whether it's the resources, whether it's events and what we spend on marketing and sales and channels and every facet of the business, I think could benefit from let's go back and define our objectives, really hone in on, what are we trying to do? What does that success look like? What is, end of the year, what did we accomplish with the limited resource that we have? And doing that forces you to challenge every assumption. Doing that forces you to really evaluate alternatives. Doing that really allows you to look at the cost, truly the total cost, versus the benefit of what I'm getting from that. We've been going to the same event year after year after year. You and I have a lot of friends in the cybersecurity world, right? RSAs of the world and black hats of the world. Do we need to be there? Is that really good investment of our time, effort, reach? How do we maximize? If we're going to go, let's make sure we maximize our investment in that event. Right. And we're not just creating, booths that nobody wants to really come visit or brochures that everybody throws out, but we set up more one-on-one, more quality time. So it should really make you more decisive in the changes you want to make. It should help you implement a real focus if you're transitioning any part of the business. It should unequivocally allow you to monitor and adjust what you do, why you do it, how you do it more effectively. So go back and really look at how do we zero base everything from not just a budget, but where we choose to invest in our people, in our resources to really maximize the outcomes that we're after.
Yeah. And speaking of the conferences, we've both been to SaaStr, but I was shocked. I'm walking around, just the booth duty was just awful. They didn't know if I was going to be a big spender or not. And then Tom Bocard, who we both know, advisory board member, is a company SmartSource, who actually helps with kind of all the different, AV negotiating and kind of things like that. But let me move on here. So Rick, thanks for your reinforcing the points on Costco. And Scott Jones read my mind on Doge. So thanks for that. So next one, number 5, is AI enable the heavy lifts, humanize the last mile.
You obviously know with our work with Avnir, I'm incredibly bullish on AI impacting every facet of our respective businesses. Yeah. I like proof of value, proof of concepts. I love testing with the business outcome in mind. But Randy, what I'm struggling with, and again, we're building a platform that's AI enabled. I struggle with it replacing you and I meeting in person, looking each other in the eye, shaking hands. You and I are both huggers in a non-creepy way. I love Randy Seidl hugs, right? I haven't found the AI engine that can replace that. Right. So I'm a big proponent of letting AI tools, processes, capabilities do a lot of the heavy lifting. Go ahead and analyze massive amounts of data that is really difficult, if not impossible, for us as individuals. Go ahead and write that email for me based on your knowledge of that person. But I coach people to humanize the last mile. You better look at that email. You better reread that article to make sure it's your voice. You better make sure that introduction is what you would say, because I think incredibly, we're smart enough to know when AI wrote it. We're smart enough to know that's not a person. I recently received an email with, by the way, here's my picture, so this email wasn't written by some AI bot. And what it does is it personalizes it that much more, because we're as human beings, we're tactile. We need that human connection. We need that. And by the way, relationships are never between buildings and logos. They're always between individuals. So again, we're using some AI tools ourselves. We love, take my relationship economics insights and give me, answer these 3 questions. Great. It reads 200 pages and 100,000 words in seconds and comes back with, right, what I should focus on. And there's a lot of great tools out there. Don't let it replace our one-on-one connections. Don't let it replace our ability to engage and influence others in a meaningful way. It cannot. I still haven't found an AI agent or a model that can pick up on empathy, that can pick up on, Randy, you don't seem like yourself today. Are you okay? What's going on with you? By the way, how are Janet and how's Billy doing? And so don't lose that piece. That's the last mile that I talk about. It has to remain humanized. It has to let it enable, let it empower you and your team, but don't lose that opportunity to connect, to engage, and to influence.
Yeah, and talking about emails, it's companies that use Slack think, okay, because we have Slack, that's an excuse not to be halfway responsive on email or text. So just insane. But I'll go on here from Rick as a question. David, I'm seeing much more passivity by top companies in the business of talent acquisition. Are you seeing this also? If so, is this due to the perhaps false sense of security that the applicant tracking system platforms are more impactful than the eye test of hiring managers?
Rick, what I'm regrettably seeing is what a lot of social media has propagated is quantity over quality. So I talked to one CHRO for one position. They have received 400 resumes. So they're thinking no human is going to be able to, just the sheer volume of those resumes for a person to go through each of them. So let's just feed all that to our ATS and let it look for keywords, right? And then really recommend the 10 people that recruiter should talk to. And I can't disagree with that idea more because again, what I'm not sure how that ATS is picking up on, is this a cultural fit? Is this person's background or their upbringing relevant and viable to us?
Right.
Rick, I'm old school. I like, we're actively looking for several critical roles at Avnir right now. And I'm proactively not, spray and praying. I'm not, scattering these job descriptions all over the place. I am proactively looking for warm introductions. Here's a critical role in the future of our business. Who do you know? Who do you recommend? And it will typically or probably come from a friend of a friend, right? So right. There may not be that person, but they may know someone. So I'm old school. I'm a big believer of focus on fewer warm introductions, warm referrals. Who do you know? Who can you vouch for? That would be a good fit with our company, with our culture, where we're trying to take this place versus can they do a job? Can they actually come in and their capabilities and competencies? I'm looking for the non-coachables. I'm looking for the intangibles in the critical roles. But regrettably, I do see a lot of managers and leaders abdicate. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're abdicating their talent agenda, God bless, to HR and to automated systems, and just give me a warm body. You know what AI is going to do? Is going to replace a lot of those warm bodies. What AI can't do is the cultural fit and the personal connections.
Yeah. I mean, my two tips would be, even though I've got a recruiting business, is the leaders should be responsible for their recruiting in the bench, not recruiters. Number one. Number two is, after the first interview, spend the time to get a reference or two from somebody that that knows the person, and you'll save all kinds of time, effort, and energy. So last tidbit here, we're almost at time. So maybe you can give us a little look-see into your next book. I think it's going to be called Build Your Inner Circle.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about it. I'm launching a new podcast in January by the same title, The Inner Circle. I've been thinking, Randy, you know me, books take about 4 or 5 years to percolate, and you write enough about a topic where you feel like you have something to say. I've always believed, if you think about it, entrepreneurs have them, great athletes have them, entertainers have them, senior executives have them, which is really their most prized relationships. They have almost like a personal board of advisors or a personal board of directors that become their sounding board. And my question is, why not you? So I'm starting the writing of the next book called The Inner Circle. The podcast, like I said, will be on LinkedIn and wherever else people consume podcasts, called Inner Circle, starting in January. But we're going to write a lot about what is it, what are the rules of engagement, how do you get in, how do you create one, how do you make sure you don't dilute your credibility or trust while you're in one. So yeah, I'm excited. And we're also building it in the Avnir platform. So I'm excited about this parallel journey.
Awesome. So great for sure. So many great nuggets here. Tucker, thanks for your help behind the scenes. Nour, always amazing. And look forward to watching the Avnir app just continue to go and grow and just make a huge impact on relationships, not just sales, but obviously very appropriate across all functional areas and industries and departments and kind of everything else. So
I appreciate you having me, and likewise, look forward to seeing this journey.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much. Everybody have a great one.